What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We is here on Black Canada Talking. We give time and space in a safe and brave space for Black Canadians to give their points and POVs on stories all around the globe, not just in their neighborhood, not just in their community, not just in their province, not just in their country, global. So as always, again, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. A few little housekeeping items. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. And if you subscribe on YouTube, make sure you hit the notification bell, which will tell you upcoming conversations. And for those who may not be with us for a minute, about 4 hours before midnight, I passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I'm very, very happy with that. And support is always, and two of our friends that are on today are key in that push because they are so fantastic. And also like it on YouTube, wherever you're watching, subscribe. And another quick thing, if you are watching this before February 16th, 2023, in collaboration with Innovation Guelph, I've been asked to do, one webinars down, two more down about all things podcasting, and had about 60 people on the first one earlier on last week. So two more to come. And it was very happy that a lot of family from the Dr. Vibe posse came and gave their support. So really appreciate that. The link is there. If you have any questions about it, it's free. And even if you just register, you'll get the replay for free. So that's fantastic. So today, January 22nd, we have a friend that I didn't know she'd ever come back. Like whether she was in another country, she's doing this, she's doing that. But one of the things I really enjoyed is before we went live, she's really taking care of her self-care because she is one of the most positive, productive people I know. Journalism, media, regardless, one of the most positive, productive people. Notice I didn't say busy. I can't stand the word busy because sometimes I ask people they're busy and I go, really? That's really what's keeping busy? This lady is positive, productive. So welcome back to the Dr. Vibe Show, to Black Canada Talking to everybody. Sarah Onyango is back.
Yes.
What? We got you back.
Yes. Habari to my Swahili speakers. Bonjour to my fellow Quebecers and French speakers all over the world and across Canada. And hello from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of our amazing Anishinaabe Algonquin people here in Gatineau. I'm so glad to be back. Yeah, I've been gone for.
I was gonna say before the show I was gonna document, but I said no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I've been gone for a minute. Yes, the self-care thing is very, very, very important. And all my fellow activists and advocates in community, please take care of yourselves. I was also out of the country. I went home because with everything that's happening to Black people here, a lot of us need to go home. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from the continent, but I know a lot of people went to Ghana over the holidays. You saw the Americans, celebrities and otherwise. I saw a lot of people went home to Jamaica. They went to the Caribbean, etc. And that is such a source of nourishment for our souls. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I can't wait for the discussion.
Yes, this is going to be hot. This is going to be hot. How are things at on the radio station?
Oh, well, we've been back in the studio since the summer, earlier in the summer. So things are, we're rolling along. Still adjusting to, sort of the hybridness of, you pre-record, you're doing interviews by Zoom. Sometimes you're in studio, you're live, but it's going well. It's going well.
Good. Well, really glad to have you back. And yes, when we put up the fist like that, we know who's coming next. Here he comes, Cesar. Cesar, how
Hey, man.
my brother, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, my brother. I'm very good, my sister. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you always for having me. Truly an honor every time.
Well, it's a pleasure to always have you. How's the
Dr. Vi,
family? Yes.
can I just insert my congratulations to my brother
Yes.
Cesar Ndema-Moussa on his 2023 Dreamkeepers MLK Day citation for actually Life Achievement Award, not citation, Life Achievement Award. He got the nice glass gold
Why have you? Well, you
engraved.
come on, next time you come on. You got to
Yeah,
show us
you
that.
need
You
to.
can't. You
You need
can't
to.
hide that.
Yeah, you need to
You got.
show that award,
You need
yo.
to know, because one thing, Cesar, when I introduce myself to
Thank you.
organizations, I tell them, yes, I'm a two-time Kenyan Ethnic Media Association or whatever, and I show them. I
Mm-hmm.
show them the award.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I show them.
Yes.
So please,
Yeah, at some
please.
point you need to go get it and then bring it and then show it.
It's
So
in the
maybe not this
room. I'm
broadcast, but the
honored, but
next one.
yes.
Congratulations. How did it feel to receive that award, my brother?
In the honesty and truthfulness that you know me, and I take for witness my dear colleague and friend Kessia Peters, I am not someone who has ever cared about awards. I will go back to even a teenager. First national kickboxing championship. I didn't care that I didn't have a black belt. I was there for the competition and I won it all. My logic is always to prove who and what I am. It's never been about the gold or whatever you want to call it, the award. But I value it. Please don't misunderstand me, because it's one thing to say all that I've said. It's another thing to be at the event, to have people there, you name, receive it, people applaud you, and people showing you that recognition. So I am truly honored. I am truly.
Congratulations.
Sometimes I'm too
Congratulations.
much of a stoic for my own good, to be honest with you.
But you know what? I can relate to what Cesar is saying. I'm always embarrassed when people announce to me that I've won this award or that recognition or whatever. And it's not false modesty, that discomfort. We do what we do. We just do what we do
Yeah.
because we feel, we were put here, God put us here for a reason. And our reward is from seeing people benefit from the work that we do, right? But as I age, I've realized that, you know what? There are young people watching you. Cesar, I saw the young men who were there with the coach
Wow.
who received the award. There was a bunch of Top Flight Academy, which is a great basketball academy, and their coach was receiving an award. They were nominated. He was nominated by them, and they just stood up. And I mean, those young men were watching you, Cesar, and hearing about your work and who you are in the community, etc. Don't minimize that.
That's true.
It's a seed. It's
It's
legacy.
true.
You're
It's
planting
true.
a legacy.
It's very, very true. Especially in our environment, we need as many father figures, whether biological or non-biological, as possible. So I know you don't take it lightly and you're very humble, but please know that you matter.
Thank you. I'm honored. I have my mentees repeat that to me, but it's not that I even try to minimize. I just always, in staying true to my principles and my heroes, as you see behind me,
Yeah.
I always try to tell myself how true, and I mean, it's used today as an insult, but really it's a black thing. How woke am I in action as to my words? Because ultimately, they say the value of a person is in terms of what they left behind in terms of emotions. To that, I also had the value is also in terms of the actions. So something I noticed since my early days of activism as a teenager and early 20s is that A lot of people talk, but very people walk, and even less people are there when it's hard times. You know, the award, National Lifetime Achievement Award, and for Martin Luther King Day Jr. Day. Martin Luther King, our great hero, had this saying in terms of how uh, I may be quoting wrong, but the vast majority of Black people will never fight for the struggle, but they will reap the benefits of it. I choose to be in the few. I'm not trying to be a martyr. I'm not trying to repeat or redo what XYZ has done in the past. No, I believe in staying alive. I believe in trying to be, trying to be there old with your family and seeing your grandchildren, etc. Totally stay alive, but stay alive. And in Pan Africanism, we have this saying. So people hear Pan Africanists, the Kamit, the Hoteps talk about the ancestors. There's a little nuance. It's not to the ancestors, it's to the deserving ancestors.
Mm,
I live to be a deserving ancestors.
I
Those
like
heroes
that.
behind me were deserving ancestors.
I like
Sarah, you know the expression in terms of how in Africa, pretty much on the four corners of Africa, that expression that says, that popular saying that says, um, every time an old person dies, it's a library that
Library.
dies.
Mhm.
The truth is, it's not all of them who are a library worth keeping. Some of them, were libraries that were corrupted. And this is the type of African philosophy we need to bring forward so that, like I said, I'm a Stoic. No, I'm a Pan Africanist. We need to bring these elements of Black consciousness. Of,
Sarah's getting right. I think Sarah's right there pulling up something.
yeah, we need to, because it connects. When Dr. Vibe shows his award and says, you won the award because you're addressing these issues in terms of men, in terms of Black men. Somebody out there is listening, be like, hey, there is something that relates to me. When Sarah is saying we need to reconnect and go to the motherland, and she really specifies, it's not because I'm born in the continent, it's because we are Black, aka to be somewhere where people don't look at you as a stranger because of your dark skin. So when I'm bringing, as I always do in my conferences and training, African philosophy, it is not some intellectual showing off. It's not some look at me, I read so much. It's because someone, and it's usually a lot of people in that room, they have never heard anything that sounds like African/Black philosophy or etc. The five figures that I have behind me, anyone can name them. Most Black people will struggle to name more than there are outside of entertainment and sport. So this is why it matters.
Wow, we could end the show right there, but let's man, yeah, drop
Mic
the
drop.
mic, drop the mic. But and so that leads us a good appetizer to our conversation topic for the day. And Sarah, coming back strong as she always does, wanted to talk about Black legacies in Canada.
Okay, so
Sarah, kick it off.
the reason why I chose this topic is, well, it's kind of a selfish reason. It's because Black History Ottawa will be launching the month, the observance in the city of Ottawa, under the theme Legacies Worth Preserving, Celebrating, and Creating, right? And last week I was reading, I think his name is Andrew Griffith. Yeah, something he wrote about the Order of Canada and just the underrepresentation of certain groups. And of course, Black people are in that group of underrepresented. And most of the appointees throughout last year and before that were these white men and very few Black people. And it got me thinking about whose legacies are showcased and whose legacies are celebrated, right? And whose legacies are worth creating. And it made me think of Black legacies because we are going into Black History Month. We just had MLK Day. And yesterday was Lincoln Alexander Day. Why is his legacy not celebrated across Canada the same way MLK's legacy is?
Cesar, jump in. I like to follow up with what Sarah said, but go ahead, Cesar.
How can I put it? Sarah brings an excellent question here. And when I say an excellent question, right now it's 5:17 Sunday, January 22nd. I believe we can turn on TV and we're going to notice something about how there's so much attention on yet another mass shooting in the US.
In Monterey, California.
There you go. 3 years ago, when there was this white man, and we have to say he was a white man, in Nova Scotia, if I recall, who committed Canada's greatest mass shooting, CNN didn't exactly cover it, neither did Fox and other channels. So when Sarah asked that very important question, because this is a question of identity, Canada is kind of, I always use the expression little brother to the United States. And unfortunately, this is seen throughout the culture in terms of how, more often than not, what comes from the United States not only takes precedence to what comes from Canada, but even supersedes what is Canadian. So MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., and of course, we love his memory, we acknowledge it and all that, and it's not just the fact that he's a global figure, but it becomes a problem when on this very land where we are at, the vast majority of our Black people, our Black teenagers, elementary students, professionals, they have no clue what was Lincoln Alexander. They would have no clue what is 1834, but many of them, you say 1865, you see what I mean? So it's that cultural dominance from the United States that still impacts us. On one side, it's totally human. I mean, you go to Belgium, most Black people know a lot more about French history than the story of Belgium where they live in. It's a matter of cultural dominance. Unfortunately, it becomes an identity issue when we look at the greater conversation in terms of identities and power issues. What is, in terms of identity as Afro-Canadians, whether we're talking about our brothers and sisters, Afro-Nova Scotians, so from descendants of those who left the United States Independence War and have been in Canada since, whether we talk about the newly immigrants by planes and even those who came to be refugees, the Afro-Canadian identity always becomes diminished because of the US neighbor. But by default, what also happens is that they become unable to truly stand for their own rights and for their own advocacy, because the white dominant majority, if Black people don't know and advocate for Lincoln Alexander, what do you think is going to happen with white people? And that's not a jab at them. It's actually a jab at us, aka Lincoln Alexander stood up for Black Canadians.
Question.
We have so many heroes of Black history in Canada. Yet, from my experience in conferencing in high schools and professionals, I doubt that most Black Canadians could name 5 Black Canadian heroes. But they can easily name 5, 10, 15 American heroes.
Yeah. And we can't blame the schools all the time.
Well, so Sarah, you were reading my alleged mind. I was going to follow up with what you shared with us in that, whose responsibility is it for us to know our Black Canadian heroes?
Okay, so I belong to a historical society, Black History Ottawa. So obviously we are on the front line of that, and we need to be more aggressive, because I think that's also, it's not so much that nobody's doing it, it's the level of aggression with which we're doing it, the energy with which you're doing. By the way, I would like to acknowledge and shout out Rosemary Sadler. Rosemary Sadler is one of those people who pushed and got Ontario to have Lincoln Alexander Day and helped get Lincoln Alexander Day nationally, as well as Black History Month, as well as Emancipation Day, etc., etc. So we need more Rosemary Sadlers, like multiply these people. And when they put themselves out there, we need to be behind them, because it's very lonely trying to get these national observances and recognitions. It really, really is lonely. The people who do the lobbying, and they don't always get the support from their own Black community. So it starts with us. It starts at home. It starts in our communities. It starts in our associations. You know, like, why is there not sort of the blanket adoption of Lincoln Alexander Day with all of the African and Caribbean associations across Canada? Can you imagine if all of them automatically on their website in the week leading up to Lincoln Alexander Day, boom, you go on their website, that's the first thing you see. And they actually put under the late Lieutenant Governor Alexander's picture, the only Black person in Canada that has a national observance named for him. That's very much lost on a lot of people. You know, he's the only one. Zero, like one. There's one. So there needs to be concerted efforts, more sort of aggressive, proactive. Don't wait to be told. Educate yourself. But unfortunately, and I'm sure Dr. Vibe, you're going to chime in with this, we're too busy in our little silos. We're too busy with, oh, the Kenya thing and Nigeria, whatever, Ghana, oh, Jamaica, oh, the Trinidad and Tobago and the this and that, and Barbados, and we're only worrying about, you know, Errol Barrow, or so and so and so. Lincoln Alexander, who's that? Oh, and he's Jamaican anyway, so who cares? What? The mentality that we still have of, you know, sort of operating in silos and me, and I and my only community, and I don't see myself as part of a continuum of Black excellence across Canada and throughout Canada's history and before Canada was Canada. We're going to keep getting this kind of thing, you know, legacies that are dismissed and diminished.
I have a conversation point for both of you, and I've brought this up periodically in conversations. If Black life ended in Canada tomorrow, what legacy would it have? Well, what's Black Canadians' legacy right now as we speak?
Cesar. I have so much. I don't want to dominate.
It's an excellent question. If you don't mind, very quickly, Dr. Vibe, are you able to show the link I just sent to you? Because to answer that question in terms of future, I have to answer quickly in terms of the present. So your previous question, the responsibility in terms of bringing forth that Black Afro-Canadian history is actually on two levels. On the individual levels, where it starts at home, the families educating their children, such as they do in terms of, how to address the police, knowing about Black history, such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers, but as well, Shaka Zulu and, anti-colonial resistance. That's great. But it also takes institutional involvement at the provincial and federal level, because, to give a perfect example, even I, 10 years ago, I did not know about Viola Desmond. I learned about Viola Desmond as many other Canadians, notably Black Canadians, at the same time, but I had a first of knowing further. So now we have Viola Desmond and on $10 bills, but it took a recognition not just of anti-Black racism, but a willing desire from the government that this person needs to be recognized. So just as, for example, we do that recognition in terms of, the third Monday of January, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That's great. And it's adopted in many countries. In Canada, January 21st, 2023, should be recognized and acknowledged, if nothing, in the schools in terms of Lincoln Alexander Day. So then when we talk about Black legacy in terms of Canada, if Black people kept to disappear, uh, it's a little bit complex to say, but on one side, we don't have a critical demography. Blacks in Canada are less than 4%, if I'm correct by my statistics, beginning 2023. Contrary to the United States, where there are 14, 15%, and the Black Americans have been there for 4 centuries, where Black Canadians, truthfully, as a national presence, it only dates back to a few decades ago. When I say a few decades ago, it was like we're really talking about the 70s and 80s, to be quite honest, on a national presence. There's been Blacks in Canada before, but on a national presence of Blackness, it's not like in the US. We need to basically be able to recognize Black Canadian presence beyond the entertainment, beyond the sport. So we can talk about the Raptors, we can talk about Drake, we can talk about Vince Carter, an American. We can talk about Bruni Surin, Donovan Bailey, etc., etc. But and that's good. Please, it's never against entertainment, but it's to say that we are so much more than just entertainment. Because the problem is that if we become only known in terms of the cliches, the entertainment, the consumerism, the religion, it makes it that much easier to erase us because we become cliche. Where are our Black Canadians who are in basically the agro-industrial sectors? Canada is a vast land that has lots of farms. I mean, all that money that Canada is giving for Ukraine is because there's a lot of Ukrainians who came here and were notably involved in the farming industries. They have lands, they have power, it influences politics. We cannot only be seen as a socioeconomically marginalized community and a racially marginalized community if we don't have areas of strength of sectors outside of entertainment. And when I say outside of entertainment, don't misunderstand me. One of the reasons why Hitler and the Nazis were so anti-Semitic is because the Jewish community had a lot of strength in the entertainment sector, but they were also bosses. Us Blacks have a lot of strength in the entertainment sectors, but we are not the bosses. Even in something that is so connected to us as the hip hop culture and rap music, we are not the bosses. We are the producers and the consumers, but we are not the owners. We are not the ones who sign the big checks. Yes, Jay-Z signs checks, but Jay-Z is connected to others who are more powerful than him. We are not at the top of the pyramid. When you're at the top of the pyramid, that's how it makes it that much easier for you as an individual and for your group as a whole to be remembered. I'm going to finish here, but I'm just going to give an example that really speak to when I talk about the three cancers of the Black psyche: entertainment, consumerism, and religion. And it connects to what we talk about legacy in terms of Blackness. You can be well educated, rich, great job, great house, etc. as a Black person. But if your community is still seen in terms of negative statistics, you are a potential victim. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, you have other communities that obviously have people living in poverty, people who are uneducated, etc., etc. But they are shielded a lot from racism and discrimination because the group as a unit is seen as strong. My success, Sarah's success, Dr. Vibe's success, that the Raptors player or the musician winning an award success, the Black professional success as an individual, it's like a finger. We need to come together as a fist. This is where we get stronger. Thank you.
Sarah, continue.
Yeah, well, for me, the Black legacies in Canada that really stand out have a lot to do with advancing human rights, have a lot to do with social progress. A lot of racialized non-Black communities it seems to really be lost on them that, you know, the fights over housing, over acceptance into certain professions, the military, and all of that. Very often, some Black people had to go there and endure the humiliation, the rejection, had to physically, in some cases, fight, had to sue, had to go before the Supreme Court, Donald Moore had to help change the immigration laws, right? The number 2 construction battalion with the military, um, the treatment even of our athletes. You're talking about sports, but the treatment of our athletes as well. Very often you will find that there were some Black people on the leading edge of fighting for rights and recognition and fair treatment. Unions. There's a reason why Canada's labor movement reveres someone like the late Stanley Grizel. Why? Because he teamed up with the likes of A. Philip Randolph to advance workers' rights. He was a Black man, okay, who died even recently. So he was living history until a few years ago. However, that's not put to the fore beyond Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, when there's Labor Day or something, I'm sorry, we should all be talking about all of our Black, labor activists, past and present, and putting them out there big. We have to be aggressive. And that's one of the problems, like I said earlier, about we're not aggressive enough about showcasing consistently. Yeah, we showcase during Black History Month, and once February's over, we're done. We move on to the next thing, right? But
I'm gonna bring up something interesting here, because at the beginning of our conversation,
yeah,
we talked about awards.
Yes.
And my co-hosts on the Morning Vibe, which is on Monday mornings at 9 a.m., Monday and Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern time, the awards ceremonies are just a dime a dozen. Do they still have value when it comes to Black legacy in Canada?
You know what? I think they have their place, especially the ones that are mainstream, the ones that are, when I say mainstream Black, I mean, the national ones, the ones that are linked to a specific sector, like CBTU Awards, Baby Pierre Awards, Gala Dynastie in Quebec, the national ones. The association ones, they matter for the people who are part of that community. You know what I'm saying? And that's also, I asked myself the same question, Dr. Vibe, a few years back, and which is why I decided to join the United Way and mainstream Black excellence. That's my mission. That get out of my way. I am mainstreaming Black excellence. That's really what I've been doing. And whatever mainstream space I insert myself into, if there's an awards program, you best believe I'm trying to make up my list of some Black people that deserve that mainstream recognition, because you might know them inside your community, but some white and Asian people have no idea who your Black excellence is in your community. That's why I'm obsessed with things like the Order of Canada, even though a lot of people think, well, I don't need the Order of Canada to prove my worth, blah, blah, blah. Hello, the Order of Canada is the highest civilian honor you can get as a Canadian, okay? Mm-hmm. It's like the Presidential Medal of Freedom in the United States. It's kind of the equivalent of that, okay? Our young people and our kids and new Canadians, immigrants coming in, they need to see your Black excellence on that platform right there, right? So I agree with you that, when it's the internal awards, and I some people I know have complained a lot about, c'est toujours les mêmes. It's always the same people. They have an entire living room full of awards. Why are we giving this person an award again? Whatever. I find also in our communities, we get lazy and we get lazy and we're not looking for Black excellence beyond, you know, the networks we know. Go outside your networks, pay attention, look around, ask around, okay? And make sure that you are casting a wider net. I'm going to stop there.
If I could,
Go ahead.
I
Go
could
ahead,
go on and
Cesar.
on.
Go on.
if I could very quickly add to what Sarah actually just said regarding the Order of Canada, the equivalent of the presidential medal in the United States, the equivalent of the Légion d'honneur in France.
Mhm.
We talk about systemic racism, and some people, of course, including Black people, feel like, oh, there's no white privilege, your efforts, and this and that. But even on the Order of Canada, it is proven, CBC, so this is not a Black media. CBC themselves have done research showing a disparity in terms of awardees of the Order of Canada regarding the representation of the country. And this speaks to the very fact of when we speak about Black legacies, who gets to be seen, whose story gets to be out there in terms of saying, this is a Canadian story. So it's great, Viola Desmond, but we were just talking about Lincoln Alexander. And at the same time, when we talk about Order of Canada, well, Indigenous people, Black people, and other marginalized communities, not only are they not represented as in terms of the population, but are also not represented in terms of the real Canada. So still that perception of that postcard Canada, and then it creates an intellectual, but also an administrative laziness in terms of Canadians and Canada as a society in regards to who do we bring forward to say, this is the Canada. This is not even a matter of politics or left or right or ideology. No, this is what is the reality of Canada
Mhm.
versus what is the illusion of Canada.
All right, Sarah.
Can
I'm
I just
gonna
add something?
absolutely. You two just go, and also
Can I just
whenever
add
you,
something?
whenever you want me to bring up the articles each one of you have just given me, I'm ready to bring
You
those
can
up.
bring up the CBC one. It was actually
Okay.
not CBC that did the study. It was Andrew Griffith. He's a former public
Yes, I
servant,
know
senior
about
public
him.
servant,
Yes.
with immigration, I think it was, or something like that. But one
Yep.
thing as well is, I don't know if you noticed that under former Governor General Michael Jean, all of a sudden all these Black people was getting the Order of Canada. I've never seen so many Order of Canada ceremonies with some Black people. Okay. And I've been watching them for some 20 plus years on TV. And now there's many, many more Indigenous people getting the Order of Canada under Governor General Mary Simon. So that also has an impact. However, things like the Order of Ontario, the Order of Canada, Order of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, etc., Order of Ottawa, even the Ordre de Gatineau, etc. It's the public that nominates, eh? It's the public that nominates, and then there's obviously a committee that decides. But as Black people, we still are not very good at, I mean, I know I'm generalizing, but my experience with the United Way Community Builder Awards has shown me that as Black people, we're still not good at understanding sort of the strategic relevance and benefit of putting forward someone who is not necessarily us or our brother, sister, or best friend, or someone we like. When you put someone forward that that exemplifies a legacy, accomplishments, not just to your community but to society, to the mainstream, to the country, to the province, etc., you honor your community, and you honor the wider Black community when you do that. It's not just about you, and it's not just about them, right? It's about a continuum of Black excellence, of which you are a part, even if you're not getting the award. We have to change our mindset, and we have to understand that there's some strategic, you know, value, whether it's the role models for our young people to encourage them to inspire, whether it's the way Black people are regarded in certain sectors, which debunk all kinds of myths. Like if you see all these Black people winning science awards for excellence nationally, that whole myth about, you know, Black people are just good for sports and entertainment, that just goes out the window, right? Medicine, you know, like people like Dr. Yvette Bonny, who is a renowned hematologist here in Quebec. Hello, where's her Order of Canada? She has saved many lives, okay, with her research and her methods in hematology. Where's her Order of Canada? Why haven't people in her community put her name forward, right? And she's not getting any younger. That's another thing. Don't wait until they're on their deathbed, you know? So there has to be a mind shift from us so that we put our people forward in good time while they're still here and they're able to have the presence of mind to really savor, etc. And then they can go on speaking tours and that sort of thing, right? I'll stop there.
Cesar?
No, really nothing much to add. I mean, Sarah said it well. I mean, ultimately, the change that is to come for our community comes first and foremost from us. We can point the finger all we want regarding systemic racism, pointing out the ills of slavery, colonization, and XYZ. There are all those fingers that are looking back at us. And us as a group, us as an individual, especially us in terms of the rear view mirror of our ancestors and the front view of our children, our descendants. And as such, Sarah is correct. We have to honor our people. We talked about me getting an award. It's because of the recognition of our people. We being here with you, Dr. Vibe, is because of the recognition of our people. The good that we do, and in my case, I do a lot of the things that I do for the community. I don't advertise my name. I work with other organizations and other people, but that can only be possible if we recognize the value we can bring to one another. Just as when we clench the fist, it's not just a symbolic gesture or hey, no, it has to mean something. That meaning of something reflects back in terms of the perception that is of our community. It comes to something that brings us together, but something that can also protect us, aka your community is strong. Your community being strong helps to shield us, but it also helps to bring recognition to what our community is bringing to the greater community that's called Canada and the even greater community that's called the world. This is where basically what Sarah was just saying matters. And when we talk about Black legacy, it's not a legacy per se as an individual in the logic of crabs in a barrel. Crabs should not even be in a barrel in the first place. But crabs should all be together on that beach, aiming for that goal, knowing they have to support one another to succeed as a collective.
But you make a very important point. Do many of us know that we should support each other? And if we know it, are we willing to do it? Because always I bring up the three things: trauma, repetition, symbolism.
Dr. Vibe, sorry, if I can very quickly address
No
this.
problem.
I go back to the painting behind me of the heroes. And, integration has fooled a lot of Black people. Not all Black people, but a lot of Black people. Integration, and this is human. This is not even a jab at Black people or some Black people or speaking of religion, entertainment, and consumerism. Not at all. It's very human People want to be comfortable. People want to be able to live, have a good life, see the children grow up, be able to come home safe, and etc. etc. That's human. The problem that has come, and this is where I was referring to our heroes, is that white mainstream culture has divided Black consciousness in North America in the 60s in a split in terms of the extremist Malcolm X versus the integrationist Dr. Martin Luther King. You know, the Black person who can do business with whites. What it becomes dangerous is how, when we see 1967, especially 1968, Martin Luther King starting to wonder if he didn't bring his people in a house on fire. A lot of the issues that we have today are very alike in the 60s in terms of social unrest. So now we don't have Vietnam, and sure, we can say Afghanistan, whatever, but the conflicts are there, the social tensions. We're talking about a culture wars. Imagine in the 60s. Did MLK, his thought of bringing his people in a house on fire, is still very reflective to us today, because when you have a traumatized community as the Black community, even that Black person who has so many white/non-Black friends, including a partner, there is a trauma that's there in terms of the Blackness. Am I Black enough to my Black people? Am I Black radical or too Black to my non-Black circles? This basically becomes a trap of integration where, as Black people, the question is, are you truly free to be Black? This is something I remind people when I give trainings to Black professionals. The vast majority of Black people don't live with whites. They survive to whites, just as indigenous people. They survive. They don't live with white people. They live in a reality in which, if I take the book, it's what it was right here. Peau noire, masque blanc, black skin, white mask, and where some have come. I'm just picking books right here on my shelf. Some, you see this book, Passing. Some who are able to pass, to be more comfortable, they do it in a survival, because it's always that survival instinct. I'm not saying each and every Black person out there is not comfortable in the skin. That's not the question. But it goes back to that meme on the internet. I mean, we have to take example from social media in our age. If you really think you have white friends, bring up slavery, colonization, systemic racism, and see the reaction. Because it's not just going to show if you really have white friends, aka if you really have friends who happen to be white, it's also going to show to what extent are you comfortable in your Black skin, aka to what extent are you comfortable in your authentic truth about being Black, no matter your intersectionalities. So this is the trap of integration where too many of our people, because as an individual, they don't sit truly in balance in their own identity, it becomes difficult to bring them as a collective. And the collective is not just because there's other people around you, it's very psychological. The collective is, even if I am alone in that room, the only Black person, is my fist raised? Or do I lower it in order to have the job? Do I lower it because I'm attracted to this attractive non-Black woman or non-Black man? Do I lower it because I want to fit in this social circle? Do I lower it because I like something that's non-Black, etc., etc.? It's very psychological to answer that question.
Then, with all that's been discussed, do we have the energy to make Black legacy an important part to not only Black Canadians' future, but to Canada's future?
Listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me well. I'm going to do a Cheryl Lee Ralph kind of come closer. I love her. I'm just, oh my God. Je suis fan
Okay.
fini. Cheryl Lee Ralph, I met you once in Washington. If you see this, love you. Listen to me. Black legacies are important all day, every day, all year, not just in Black History Month in February, okay? Every day. You are making your Black legacy every day with the choices you make in terms of, like Cesar says, how you bring yourself to a situation, how you bring yourself into a room, whether it's a boardroom, whether it's a classroom, whether it's a bathroom, public bathroom, wherever. You are perpetuating Black legacy. Like I've been saying this for at least a decade. We need to keep thinking of ourselves in terms of evolving in a continuum of Black legacies. I'm a big picture thinker. I'm not good at the whole silo thing. That's not how I grew up. I'm not good at that. So we have to think of ourselves as part of that continuum, which will continue beyond us. So what do we want? The continuum beyond us, what do we want it to be? Because if our ancestors, whether it's those from the 1600s, the 1800s, the early 20th century, if they hadn't thought of what do I want my legacy beyond me to be, I don't even want to know where we would be, really. Okay, whether it's the West Indian people who took part in the West Indian labor schemes, the domestics who came, the miners who came, the agriculturers, workers who continue to come to this day, if they hadn't thought of, I have a vision for what I want my family, community, etc., to be beyond me, beyond now, today, I don't know where we would be. So we need to be thinking in terms of every day, every choice, every manner in which we bring ourselves to a situation. That is part of the legacy that you are creating. People are watching, whether it's white supremacists over there, whether it's the kids in your house over here, whether it's the young people on your basketball team, whether it's your colleagues that you may or may not like, whatever, they're watching. You are your legacy. You're God's legacy. And that's another thing, the spirituality of it all. Black legacies are a spiritual gift to Canada, people. That's the way I look at it, quite seriously. Black legacies are a gift to Canada in so many ways. But we as Black people in Canada need to understand that, and we need to behave as if we are part of a continuum of legacies, of excellence. Yes, struggle. Yes, suffering. Yes, discrimination. But triumph, innovation, creativity, fight, resistance, productive. We've produced, whether we've taught in classrooms, whether we've saved people's lives as personal support workers, doctors, nurses, whether we have created a legacy on film. Hello, Jennifer Holness and her husband. Yes, and Dr. Vibe. What we're doing here is part of a legacy of excellence in Black media. Camille Dundas, Roger Dundas. Okay, so everything you're doing is part of a Black legacy, not just in Canada, in this world. Take care of it, nurture it, celebrate it, share it.
Wow. Anything else you want to add, Cesar? I think that's just anything you want to add before we close out, Cesar?
No, Sarah said it very well.
Yeah.
I just repeat, whether we are walking individually or we're walking in group, and when I say we, I just have to say it to make sure for people who have trouble of hearing and understanding. We is all shades of blackness and all intersectionalities of blackness. We always walk and breathe with the in the rear view of our ancestors. Our ancestors were not just slaves nor colonized. The vast majority of our history was glorious and free, with struggles, wars, conquests, achievements, and innovations like all peoples of the world. We live in this present, which is better than 50 years ago, which was better than 50 years prior. But we have to make it so that not just in 50 years, but 5 years from now, 2 years from now is better for our children and our descendants. Basically, as me winning an award, but me being on this show and me as anyone every day, there is a passing of the baton, a passing of the baton in terms of you are next to continue this legacy.
Mhm,
This is what it's about.
mhm,
And in your case, Dr. Vibe, something that a lot of people, and it really saddens me because the misinformation, I'm not saying, I didn't say miseducation, but the misinformation that comes too visible in our Black community makes it that our people tend to lack a strategic and long view of issues to come. When Dr. Vibe has a show and we happen to come on the show online, this is something that has a potential of still being accessible, not just next week, not just next month, years and years down the road, and can help someone. It could even be a non Black person, but it can help someone in their struggle. Last but not least, there was a great man. He's dead today, but there was a great man. He was Asian from Vietnam. His name, Ho Chi Minh.
Yes.
He wrote himself in his book that being in the United States in the 1920s during his trip, he heard the speech of a Black man he knew nothing about, but he wrote the name of that Black man, Marcus Garvey. Decades later, Vietnam War, Ho Chi Minh wrote himself. He didn't hate the French, he didn't hate the Americans, but he wrote, among things that inspired him, there was that Black man in the United States by the name of Marcus Garvey. I can't make it up. I can't make it up.
Dr. Vibe,
Go ahead.
if I
Go ahead.
may,
Go ahead.
one legacy, a group of legacy creators, preservers, and celebrators that I'd really like to acknowledge. Uh, 100 accomplished Black Canadian women, Dr. Augustine, Donna Jones Simmons, and Dr. Denise O'Neill Green. Oh my God. Though that group right there, those ladies are all about the excellence of Black legacy, preserving and celebrating, showcasing, etc. You now have a reservoir of some 500 Black women exuding excellence in a myriad of fields that any kid, professional, whatever, they can go in there and find all these people that the media and the mainstream claims don't exist.
Sarah, you are part of those women.
I know.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you
And
give
that's why
yourself flowers too.
that's
Yes.
why I support initiatives like that, where they make it accessible for time immemorial beyond them. That's big picture thinking, and that's thinking beyond your current immediate legacy. I'd like to see many more initiatives like that.
On the point, that is the end of this episode of Black Canada Talking. I'd like to thank Sarah. You're back. I hope you don't disappear on us for a little while. And Cesar, thank you as always. Sarah, where can people get in touch with you?
I'm on Black 891 at hotmail.com. Black on Black is the show that I co-host and co-produce on CHU 89.1 FM every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon Eastern time, North American time.
Excellent. Cesar?
I am still reachable. Facebook is getting suspicious. I haven't been blocked in a while, but it's a good thing. Facebook, Cesar Remy, Rimy, Emery, Emery. For those who wondered the names, Emery is a tribute to Patrice Lumumba, who was assassinated a few days ago in January, and Remy is a tribute to arguably the greatest pharaoh, Remy Sissu II, aka Ramses II. And last but not least, was it an hour and 15 minutes ago, I officially became certified in religious trauma. And we have to remember, thank you so much. We have to remember it's not about bashing religion, aka Christianity, Islam, because of slavery colonization, but we have to recognize there's a lot of spiritual abuse in the Black community, whether it be psychological, financial, sexual, and notably upon the vulnerable ones, aka the elderly, but especially our women and children. You can count on me as I speak of the three cancers of the Black psyche: entertainment, consumerism, religion. You know me, you can count on me to address it very frontally. Thank you so much.
Thank you to both of you. I'm looking forward to more epic conversation in 2023. And Sarah, we're going to keep an eye on you. We don't want you to leave again, unless you have to. And again, for self-care too. All right. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you again. Thank you, Cesar. Excellent as always. Hey, epic conversation. I don't have too much more to share, but this. You can see on the bottom, you can watch replays of Black Canada Talking at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, you can go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com, and catch replays there. Also, as I said at the beginning, subscribe wherever you're watching this, particularly on YouTube if you wish, but wherever you're watching this, subscribe. And on YouTube, also hit the notification bell. If you're watching this before February 16th, 2023, you can register at that link right there. I'm doing webinars on how to launch a podcast. And then finally, if you'd like to promote your business or service on the show, please contact me at dr.vibe at thedrvibeshow.com. As always, I'll leave with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. And don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And we are gone. See you soon.